A voice calls from deep within our world. It heralds the biggest arc in the game's modern history, the World Soul Saga, something that strikes at the heart of what it means to be a defender of Azeroth and uncovers just what all of those Titan machines strewn across the world have been doing all of this time. Such a mammoth arc needs a worthy introduction, and that is the job of the War Within, an expansion that will bring us to the Isle of Dorn and the many realms that exist below it. We'll find Titanforged, true blood Lordaeron descendants, the return of the light, and in its deepest reaches, Xal'atath leading a thriving kingdom of Nerubians. Something absolutely massive is coming, and we need to get a handle on it. So, kicking off a new era of World Soul lore, today I'm diving into the War Within and bringing you today's sponsor. Squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming, the place to rapidly get yourself established on the web and where you can enjoy their game-changing Fluid Engine. Pretty next level way to customize your website just how you like. They've ran two of our sites, of course most recently one for our game studio, and when I hopped in I just found the upgrade button sitting there in a content block, so I clicked it and I was quite happy I did, because Fluid Engine is a really cool feature. It presented me with a grid, right? And I soon realized, oh, I can just drag and drop things around this grid, and they'll just go there. It'll work for images, text, buttons. You can size them, position them how you want, and this lets you take their award-winning templates and accomplish exactly what you want. And of course, because it's Squarespace, it all works in all the different screen sizes, mobile, tablet, all of that. It's the kind of thing that's just never really felt as good as it should have on the web, and now it actually does, which is brilliant. So that they've solved this is certainly an impressive feat, and one that absolutely democratizes web development. It makes this kind of thing easier for the average person like me to do. So that's Fluid Engine. It's really sweet, and you can, of course, check it out, and you can build your own site for free at squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming, and then if you use the code Bellular Gaming, you'll get 10% off an annual plan. Thanks to Squarespace for supporting us, and let's roll. Our World Soul. They said it themselves, a hook strong enough to hang 3 expansions from. That is the core of this whole arc. Azeroth is a World Soul. She's finally waking up. It's so important it drove the War Within cinematic. Far away from conflict, we see Anduin and Thrall in Silithus, brought together by the voice of Azeroth herself. Thrall, of course, is in a way no stranger to the World Soul. He was indeed the World Shaman, but all the way back in Warcraft 3, Thrall and Karn invoked the Earth Mother. In a way, this is the first canonical reference to Azeroth having a personality, in the form, of course, of the Tauren deity. Thrall has always been at the forefront of lore that will define this arc. He helped understand the elements, he became an avatar of Azeroth's earth energy, and helped many champions get their start defending her. It's pretty damn clear why Thrall is important then. But what about Anduin? He has had no particular connection to this World Soul. He's either been peacemaker or forced to be, in a way, a warlord in a war that he never wanted. Anduin's story always revolved around the many characters around him. He's as much defined by his friendship with Saurfang or Rathian as he is for facing off against Garrosh or Sylvanas. But above all else, he's kind of defined by 2 things: trauma and hope. His mother died when he was young. His father then disappeared. His kingdom was usurped by a dragon. He got lost in Pandaria, where he developed further his connection to the light, and with that, eventually some void-related things would happen. Then suddenly, he was king of the most powerful military in Azeroth, a peacemaker now with a sword in his hand. It's this crossroads that makes Anduin so important. He was a practitioner of the light, but felt how powerful the void could be, something that is made very clear in one of the recent Warcraft novels. He wanted peace, his whole life strove for it, but he had to make extremely hard decisions in war, and even as a teenager, he had his major brush with death when he tried to plead for peace with Garrosh, who of course claimed the Divine Bell and almost killed Anduin in the process. Anduin was scarred by it all, and when it culminated, he was taken by the jailer and made into a tool of literal evil, forced to live in a waking nightmare. Now a more broken man, in a way, a bit of a blank slate. He won't look at the light and see sanctuary. He won't necessarily look at the void and see evil. He will see things more for what they are, even potential threats. All this is crystallized in the cinematic, a broken man ready to pick up his sword again and perhaps exit his self-imposed exile, and a world-weary shaman ready to guide him through that process. Which details the arc of our first main characters, Thrall and Anduin. But of course, from the key art, we do know that somebody else is going to be important. But to truly understand how important Alleria's arc is going to be throughout this saga, we first need to know what lies beneath the Isle of Dorn, we need to know about Xal'atath, and the Void. Azeroth's voice is calling us underground. Luckily, during Dragonflight, we heard about the realm of Kaz Algar, where Earthen, long disconnected from the Keepers, developed a civilization of their own, which brings us to the Isle of Dorn, west of Pandaria, southeast of Kalimdor, slap bang in the South Seas. And at the heart of this island is the Earthen city of Donegal, which does rather sound like County Donegal in the fantastic country of Ireland that I am from. Who knows? Maybe Blizzard will be doing some inspirations there. Anyhow, the Algarian Earthen were once tasked with keeping the mighty titanic machinery below the surface functioning. What was this machinery for? Well, we have two reads so far. Number one, we find out in Dragonflight that these Earthen were sent to investigate an anomaly in a deep fissure in the earth. We have no idea what that anomaly is, but we can assume, considering that in the depths of Kaz Algar there appears to be a Nerubian kingdom, that this anomaly may indeed have something to do with the Void. But it could go much deeper. The second read in this is that the machinery of Kaz Algar is in a way key to keeping Azeroth in the Titan's chains, but perhaps to understand that, we need to learn about the Core Way. Below Dorn is the Ringing Deeps, which will show us that, left to their own devices, the Earthen drifted from the edicts of the Titans and are now divided into three sects. There are the Oathsworn, who are still hardcore about the Titans. They maintain the Core Way, a path that leads directly to the heart of Azeroth, a path to the World Soul. Already, we know that in the next expansion, we will find the highway to the heart of the world itself. Next are the Unbound, who mined the resources that were required to maintain the Titans' machines. They now go about their lives no longer slaved to the Titans. Then we have the Machine Speakers. They live deep underground, and they disdain those who live on the surface. It seems they've either gone a bit mad, or perhaps now speak to the machine. Or, and far more likely, they could be connected to something a little bit more fundamental. Through this Core Way that they've maintained for thousands of years, maybe they've started to speak to something else. Maybe to Azeroth. It is perhaps then through these Earthen that we will ultimately learn a little bit, the first breadcrumbs of just what else the Titans were up to when they crafted all of these mighty machines across the world, the sorts of things that we found, as an example, in Northrend. It is then through this Earthen culture and its various factions that we will learn a little bit more of what's truly going on. Going deeper still, we find Hallowfall, and a surprise. The true blood, living line of the Arathi of Lordaeron. The Arathi were the first human tribes in Lordaeron, and they built the Seven Kingdoms. They found the light, introduced magic to humanity, and drove much of the story of Warcraft, from Arthas to Gen, even reclaiming Gilneas in 10.2.5. But how the hell did they end up here, far from home? Well, the hint is in their capital city, Merladar. You see, back in the day, humanity had to fight an existential war against the Amani Empire. Humanity's greatest general was named Lordaeron, which is in fact where the name Lordaeron comes from. But his sister was visited by a Naru during the war, taught others how to heal, and started the Church of the Holy Light. From this point, accelerate 2,500 years, and what do we have? We have the likes of the Knights of the Silver Hand. Now, look at this massive crystal sticking out of the ground in Hallowfall. Look at the runes. Is that a Naru? It's certainly something from the light. And at night, it has a void state. Or rather, its void state is the nighttime for this underground realm. Light and void in one crystal. Of course, if you're familiar with the deep lore of the Naru, this makes complete sense, and my personal guess is that this may indeed be the Naru who visited Mereldar and told her to go on the crusade and start the Church of the Holy Light. And while yes, this is speculation, one need only look at the name of their capital city and the fact that there is a massive crystal that 100% is exhibiting behavior of a Naru. Of course, this civilization has been here for a very long time, and I would guess for good reason. They may even be fighting for the destiny of that Naru crystal, keeping it in the light state and fending off those who would turn it to void. Speaking of which, Xal'atath and the Nerubians of Azj-Kahet. Far below Dorne is Azj-Kahet, a Nerubian kingdom long hidden in isolation. The last we saw of the Nerubians in Warcraft, they were at the edge of extinction. Even before the events of Warcraft 3, the Lich King would launch the War of the Spider against Northrends and Nerubians. This is a kingdom, the Nerubian Empire at the time in Northrend, had stretched across the majority of the continent, and they were so powerful that they initially ignored the Lich King. His necromantic powers did not work on their corpses, leading to constant stalemate. But the Lich King eventually learned how to use his domination mind control magic, and the war would pretty much end up being finished. Those who survived dug deeper. They dug further, and seemingly, these may indeed be the Nerubians that we find below Kaz Algar. But now Xal'atath has given them an opportunity to rebuild their empire, to reform their greatness, and it's all leading to something. Throughout Dragonflight, we had questioned Iridikron's true intentions. Now we know that he fought a war against the Titans for so long he's essentially gone mad and will do anything for his victory. Ironically, he was so preoccupied with the Titans taking Azeroth that he allied with the Void, who have rather the same intentions. His part of the bargain was reclaiming the essence of Void put into Galakrond, the thing that made him so dangerous. Armed with that essence, their plan is that Xal'atath will be able to pry Azeroth from the Titan's grasp. But that is somewhere down the line. The first step in that plan, seemingly, is using some of that power to mutate and evolve the Nerubians of Azj-Kahet into a newer, more glorious and powerful form to serve Xal'atath's needs. What does Xal'atath get in return for all this Nerubian stuff? Obviously, some key to victory. The old gods are dead, their blood soaks the earth. We're now getting into a whole new era of lore speculation. Il'gynoth and N'Zoth, perhaps they may be relevant in the future, but they feel just a tad less relevant now. Void is looking and feeling a little bit different. The Nerubians are collecting the blood of those dead old gods so that Xal'atath can do something. The question then is what? And when we look into the past of Xal'atath, there has long been a speculation that she is indeed the remnant of a lost fifth old god that was consumed by the other four. It's quite an incredible story, but it is contained within the Legion artifact knowledge that you get for the Blade of the Black Empire. Now, if Xal'atath is on a bid for power, then perhaps reclaiming her old god form is on the cards. Or maybe it's something else, some form of power. Point is, what happens if that crystal goes void? What are the Nerubians doing with the blood of the old gods that they currently are harvesting? And this brings us to our final protagonist character of this expansion, Alleria Windrunner, because she is the Void Hunter with Xal'atath in her sights. Xal'atath is squarely framed as an antagonist thus far, but she does in fact use the very same power that Alleria wields, the Void, which should be a hint at where some of this story is going. Since N'Zoth first warned us about something terrible coming for Azeroth, we have been onboarded to Warcraft's most modern arc. Now, if Void is some purely evil force, how is it that one of our heroes is able to wield it and somehow not turn into a villain? Well, we have in fact heard it from Alleria herself. The voice that she hears is in fact different than the voice at the heart of our planet. For her, there is no radiant song, only a taunting voice. Now, what is Alleria hearing? Well, the voice is coming from one of two places as we see it. One, it's the void speaking to Alleria and drowning Azeroth's calls out. The voice taunting her from below could literally be Xal'atath, and perhaps they are just setting up that Alleria will have some insider knowledge while we are facing off against the Harbinger, which of course is Xal'atath. But perhaps on the other hand, maybe the voice that Xal'atath hears is still Azeroth. Maybe the old gods were successful in some way. Maybe their tendrils got to the heart of our world, and now a part of her is infected with void. Is that a bad thing? Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe the composition of Azeroth is supposed to be in balance, right? All of these great forces and things, not any one monolithic weird thing. And in a way, balance is a point of Alleria's character, and by extension, Locust Walker and his control of the Void, it kind of gets to this. One day, we're going to need to harness these Void powers, so we need to start learning how useful these powers can be. How can we actually use them? Are they inherently evil? And what better way to do that than one of the main characters driving this expansion? And this rounds off the immediate arc of World of Warcraft, The War Within. We are going to the Isle of Dorne, and then we are going underground, where we will see two major stories play out. First, Earthen, who have lost faith in the Titans, and second, the Void returning to Azeroth. Beyond that, Midnight, the second expansion, returns to Quel'Thalas, where Void will try to claim the Sunwell. This is the big Light versus Void expansion. It is the fight that will settle the Void arcs of both Xal'atath and Ashara. The Light will be involved, and obviously Blizzard are seeding that with these Arathi humans that we meet underneath the Isle of Dorne. Likely then we will come to some form of understanding about the truer nature of things. And I will refer you to a quote from Xal'atath from back in Legion, where she said that the Naru are to her but long-lost brethren. What does that mean? Well, in Midnight, I think we're going to finally find out. And that just leaves the second story, the Titans, and that is the remit of our final expansion, at least in this saga, The Last Titan, where, as we are told by Chris Metzen himself, we will uncover a conspiracy about the Titans stretching back to the dawn of the world as we know it. The biggest clue to the conspiracy is this. Look at the logo of The Last Titan. Behind it are rings. They are rings around a light that likely represents our world soul. And these are rings that, even if you don't recognize it, you've seen before, because those rings are the same rings that imprisoned the Incarnates in the vault of the Incarnates. The conspiracy then is this. Azeroth is Azeroth, a source of great power for whoever can claim her. The Titans are but one group who wish to do so. The Void beat them to it. The old gods infested the world, but the Titans were able to defeat them. They were able to defeat them, and they were able to hone the planet, craft the planet, build systems, build defenses, and build things that would infuse their magic into her very heart. The implications of that, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, and what even the Titans will be. Will they be monolithic bad guys? Will they in fact be another group? Some of whom will be our allies, others who will be our enemies. Well, that will be the arc of The Last Titan. And I have a little bit of a feeling that Aman'Thul may not be such a cool guy, but perhaps the likes of Agrimar and Aenar, well, maybe, as has been evidenced by some very interesting tales we found in the Emerald Dream, maybe they will turn to our side. And that is it. This is what we know about World of Warcraft, The War Within. This is the pitch. Let me know how you feel about this, and if you're a player who has been burnt out by the Shadowlands and didn't really vibe with how Dragonflight felt, how to you, then, does this feel? Nerubians, the classic Warcraft 3 villain, Arathi human paladins, whose light is expressed by burning fire, who use airships. I mean, come on, to me, that's pretty damn cool. I think Xal'atath has marvelous potential as a future antagonist for us all to fight. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for sticking around for today's video, and I'll see you next time.